Hey guys, my name is RyanCentral and welcome to HitScan. Today we have a little bit more news from the Valorant devs on what to expect with Ranked, but there's also been a lot of really good suggestions over the last couple of weeks or so on things that the game really needs. So we're going over some bits and pieces of news, but towards the end of this video, we actually have a bit of a pseudo interview with a pro coach on why teams aren't running Sage as much, and also kind of a smart way to fix the problems with the operator that a lot of people have been complaining about, and so have you guys in the comments from the last video. Ranked has been out almost 2 weeks. Whilst people are enjoying having that competitive play coming back, there are of course a few problems and a few things that the system is really needing that's making the ranked experience not too great. Most certainly when it comes to the higher ranks in getting to Radiant. The system is very similar to how it works in Counter-Strike with all of the different ranks. You don't actually know how close you are to ranking up as an example, and there's no actual leaderboards. But this is something that is looking to change sometime relatively in inverted commas soon. This came from a tweet from G2's Mixwell saying that he would really like the idea of a shooting range whilst you're being in queue, because obviously you can't go into the practice range whilst you're queuing up for a ranked game. Some of these queues lasting almost an hour for some of the higher ranked players. Coach spots in private games, which, you know, everything needs fixing in the spectating client, so there's that. Reworking Viper's ultimate, which is an interesting one. But most importantly, an ELO system for Radiant like it has in League of Legends. TFT responded saying it would be awesome to see players compete for rank 1 rather than everybody getting Radiant, which is not as hype to watch. And Ziegler, one of the main devs behind Valorant, says that we are working on plans for something like this, but don't have an ETA just yet. Definitely interested in giving players a chance to see who's the best of the best. So leaderboards are coming, you don't need to worry too much about that, but I think this comment from Ziegler did get a lot of people talking about what's missing in Ranked and in the game that we really need sometime soon. I think for a lot of people, certainly those that are at the highest rank, as soon as they get Radiant, it's kind of like, now what? What do we do? We've got it. Do we lose it? What's really the plan on continuing on when it comes to this rank system? For example, a few days ago, this Reddit post was put on by Herven9903 saying that a performance-based ranking system is biased towards duelist and against support. The whole idea of if you top frag on your team and you win, you get more SR, I suppose it would be. You have the chance to go up not only one rank, but a couple. You could go up from Iron 1 to Silver 1 if you have a really, really good game. That has happened to a lot of players. But if you play your Cyphers, your Sages, where you might get a lot of assists, which is something I'm going to come back to, where you don't get a lot of frags because you're playing the objective mode and playing a frag heavy character, you won't go up as high in rank. Now this could be something that Riot turn around and say, actually that's not necessarily as true as people make it out to be, but based off what has happened in the past with Overwatch, remember when Mercy didn't get as much SR as some other characters within the game? It might be like that. There are quite a few people sort of coming up and complaining about how the system rewards frag heavy players, and really we all know at this point that it is an objective based game. Sure, getting frags is important, but if you put a lot of leverage on getting frags in order to rank up, then you just get players that are running around kill hungry and not necessarily playing to plant the spike or defuse it. They just kind of go a bit off the board, and I've had that a few times in my games and it is super frustrating. Now, I as well am a person that likes to play objective-based characters, the smart characters like Cypher and Sage, and because of that I often tend to get a lot of assists, sometimes more assists than kills in some cases. And this was brought up again by Genty on the subreddit, talking about how they had more assists than kills, and people brought up the fact that assists seem to mean and count for so little. Mike Doug in the comments said if you're not fragging like hell but helping your team with your utility, you may as well stay on your rank forever. And I think this is something, even if it's not necessarily true, that Riot should get in front of and explain how ranked is defined by these kind of stats. Their communication on topics like this has been really good, so I am hoping that they do go, hey, we've seen a lot of you guys saying that the game is too frag centric, that if you're not getting kills you're never going to rank up, and we wanted to explain that that's not true. Here are the things that decide how the ELO system works. That's what I'm expecting and hoping at least, but I am curious again what you guys think in the comments below. Do you think that the game is focused too much on getting kills when it shouldn't be when it comes to ranked? Or do you feel like this is people maybe anecdotally getting a bit upset because they're not climbing as fast as they were hoping? Speaking of ranked and meta and all the things that go along with it, I did want to take a quick look at Hiko's tier list. There is a full video where he talks about all of the details on why these agents are rated where they are, it's definitely worth a watch. It's linked in the description. But for the most part, I would agree. I think the top 3 agents certainly are the better ones. They were the agents that we highlighted in agents that you want to pick up in ranked. I think Raze and Sova are a tier higher than Omen. I think Omen's in his own tier, maybe alongside Breach. Jet and Phoenix, I think, belong where they are, maybe down to C tier to make space for the new tier with Omen and Breach. But yeah, definitely Viper and Reyna at the bottom. That doesn't inherently make them bad. Most certainly Viper, who has been buffed recently, we need to see where that goes. Whilst I agree with Hiko's list here for the most part, I do think, and this is crazy coming from me, who loves to talk about meta and compositions and who's good and who's bad, yada yada. I think we're getting the meta wrong, and I don't think it's set in stone as yet, and there's a lot of stuff that we don't understand. For example, some pro teams, as I've mentioned throughout the week, are running without sages. They're not playing this agent at all, which a lot of people would consider being a bit of a must pick, right? I think we'd all agree that Sage is pretty good. But one of the best teams in Europe for Breakin do often run sageless, and they actually do quite well with it. They look incredibly strong. Like I mentioned, one of the best, if not the best team in Europe. To hear this from the horse's mouth themselves, I sat down with a Fabrican coach, Doom Bros, to talk about why they don't like playing Sage and why is it so strong.
I'm going to talk about attack first, right? Just because there's a lot of reason behind this. So, like, for the attack, it's more, you can take the whole site as well with a Sage, right? But you basically, the core problem is if you're not running an Omen, and if you're not running like a Reyna, you don't have a flash, right? You don't have a good way of dealing with ops, whether be an operator, on heaven, or just generally exploding into sites, right? So for us at least, right, we value having 2 space takers on attack in form of like Raze and Sova. They're really good space takers in the default state of the attack. And we value that more than maybe changing one of them out for a Sage or a Breach, right? So that, and then you have your Smoker, right? And on Bind, Brimstone is better than Omen, at least for now, right? So you're left with either playing a Sage or a character which gives you a flash, right? And the Sage also, and I mean this in a good way, but it kind of promotes a sloppy playstyle where you can take more risk, right? And I feel like that's good in a sense. It gives you a lot of value in the beginning of the game, but I think if you play this game optimally, which no one is doing, but if you do, I don't think Sage is the hero that gives the most value on attack, I think you have much more tools when playing with a Breach and a Raze, for example.
So in a nutshell, not playing Sage allows you to pick up other agents that have more aggressive utility to play a little bit more aggressively, like playing solo support in Overwatch, I suppose it would be, before Rollock was added in. You go a bit more balls to the wall, and when you have a Breach and Sova in your lineup playing double initiator, you can get a lot of frags and be very scary and take control over a lot of different places. But that's on attack, however. What about defense? Surely an aggressive composition like this will suck on defense. You'd be right. Certainly looking at the way that Fabrican have been playing without a Sage, like the gameplay in the background, if you watch them on defense, you'll see just how passively they play on the defense. They give up so much space for the attacking team to get the plant in, but this is the thing. Fabrican are more than happy to let that plant go down, because as soon as that plant goes in, they're playing retake, which allows them yet again to play rather aggressively. Listen to this.
Basically makes it so hard for them once they crossed into, let's say, no man's land and there's no turning back. There's gonna be so much utility raining down on you. It's gonna be a Raze, it's gonna be a Sova, it's gonna be a Mauler from the Brim, maybe an ult from the Brim, it's gonna be an ult from the Sova, it's gonna be tripwires, it's gonna be wall hacks, and the Breach, like his fire, his flashes, right? So you're kind of, I don't want to reveal too much, right? but I think Sage in that sense is I think she's stronger on attack than on defense, really, because Sage is on defense purely a reactive character. Like, she's not proactive in any sense. All her abilities are reactive. So you kind of have to be warned on defense for her kit to be used correctly, right? If you see the smokes coming down, then you're starting to slow or pick your wall or whatever. You never do that blindly unless there's like 30 seconds left on the clock, and then maybe you put up your wall and stuff, right? And you get info from it. Basically, it's developed into a retake meta because most teams just plant on a wall and plant, and most teams just play backside and just nade, shock darts, molly the plant, and just wins around like that. That's basically how we started up, and just playing super hard with a retake. And basically, I think almost all the rounds we won it with a diffuse. All the heroes in Valorant are so strong. Like, we usually joke about, I wish we could play 7 heroes at the same time, 7 agents, because I think every agent is strong in their own right, and just the more important thing is just find what suits you and what suits the team and elevate that playstyle, right? If you're playing a Viper, you can definitely make it work, but you have to practice it and be good at it, right? I don't think there's a meta yet. I just think people shouldn't copy other teams' strats and setups. You should form your own and basically be the best version of your team, right? At least that's how I see it now in beginning, because every hero is so strong in their own right. Like, it's actually insane. Like, you can run double smoker, you can run sagelet, you can run with sage, you can even run without a cypher, and it's super viable if you just do it correctly, Now,
don't get me wrong, there is going to be a meta in Valorant at some point. Something's going to settle and the most 5 optimal agents will show up. I just think it's important to note that nobody really knows who those 5 agents are yet, and assuming that one is going to be Sage isn't really that correct. So hopefully you learned something from that breakdown of why some pro teams don't like to run Sage, but I also wanted to ask Doom Bros about the controversy surrounding the operator. The sniper rifle's too good. Is it too good in the pro scene? Is it broken? What's his perspective on that?
I think it's too strong. In my opinion, a lot of teams, their sole strat is to get a double up setup and win. It's basically their win condition, and especially on heroes or on agents like Jet or even Reyna, for that matter, or Omen. You can take shots and then deny the trade really easily, and I think that's a bit broken. Especially against teams that's not too coordinated. And I think the problem lies more with, I would say, the agents themselves, enabling that operator to be really, really good. Because I think, like, if it wasn't for those mobility abilities, right, I don't think it would be OP at all, The operator feels more oppressive in a more pug setting, like ranked. I wouldn't say it's a big problem, because, as I said, you play it safe, you do more explosive executes, right, and you commit a lot more, so you basically ensure that the operator can maximum get 1 pick, right? And then you trade it, and if you trade someone on attack, you're winning. So
now, after this point, we spoke about some ideas on how to nerf it. Would we make it clunkier? Would we up the price up to 5k, which is an idea that Doombro suggested? He also brought up the suggestion of only 1 operator on either team, which I don't really like personally. I don't like that restriction. But I did remember something about Counter-Strike. When you scope in with a sniper in Counter-Strike, it makes a scoping noise. You can hear it, so you know that there is going to be an operator if you are on the enemy team. This is something, for some reason, that isn't present in Valorant, and I suggested that to Doombros, and again, here was his response.
Oh, that would make a huge difference. Like, that's actually a great idea. I'm not joking. The scoped in thing is actually a big deal, especially when I play CSGO. I remember it being one of the drawbacks of operator. So I definitely think that might be an idea to look into, for sure. That's actually a great idea. Yeah, I agree with that one. Just sound in general is a good way of balancing out the game.
It's certainly a little quality of life fix, I suppose, that Valorant could put into the game if things get a bit too crazy for the operator. I don't think it personally requires much nerfing, but it needs to be put into check before it gets a bit too crazy. Like Doombros mentioned, double operator is the current meta, or one of the metas in inverted commas, in the pro scene that people like to play. It's their win condition. So you gotta sort of assume that the operator is kind of strong. But that's it for this time. If you want to hear the full thing of this, by the way, I sat down with Doombros for about half an hour talking about this. Maybe I can put it up as a podcast somewhere. If that's something that you're interested in, please let me know in the comments below. I'm not gonna do it unless you guys want me to, so do let me know if that's something that you want to hear about, learn about with the pro scene, and maybe we can talk to more EU coaches and players down the line to learn more about the game and how it's ran. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, bit of a different style, but I wanted to cover some news and some interesting tidbits. So if you enjoyed it, like and subscribe. Take care. We'll see you next time.